okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and you know, launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The second half of our national championship game inside the Alamo Dome now underway. About a minute gone, and L.J. Cryer hits his first three of the night, but Houston in front by 6, 34-28. The Cougs have that 6-point advantage now. Manuel Sharp tried to join him in making a three, but was unable to do that. Excuse me. That was L.J. Cryer's second made three of the night. Emmanuel Sharp still now 0 for 0 of 5.
I can't believe Emmanuel Sharp is real.
Yeah.
It is every single year, Kelvin needs to make sure he has a guy like that.
Sure.
Who, against everything you would expect from a Houston team, goes, yeah, I'm going to just yank it, man. Like, I just, it's fantastic. I adore it. It's my favorite thing. I cannot believe the shot selection that he has playing for Kelvin Sampson. Dunk that!
Can we see Walter Clayton Jr. get on the board? No, but he does get his first assist of the second half.
It's a wing ball screen.
An easy find to Alex Condon. They were trying to pick up the pace. They did so there. 5 points scored, by the way, in the second half so far. Hoping to add to it. L.J. Cryer unable to. I did bet the over of the 12.5 points total that we needed in the first 4 minutes.
You're at 5?
We're off to an okay
start. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That would have fouls called here early in the second half when we only had 4 in total in the opening half, both against the Gators. One on the defensive end of the floor against Alex Condon, one there offensively.
And I think it was an interesting spot in here as Todd Golden letting the referee have it, because that could have been Tugler's, that could have been his third foul. So that could have been a pivotal play right there, but obviously the referee's called it the other way.
34-30 here. So, again, it's the value of the three-point shot, right? Houston hits one here, up 7.
Yeah.
Instead, if it's a miss, right, boom, Florida could come down, cut it to 1. So
they see something here.
That's a foul.
They see something. That's the third, at least I've seen the second straight time.
Yeah.
They've gone ball screen, switch, go at Walter Clayton. So that's something that they're looking at, is to go at him that way.
Well, I would say, you mentioned it, how at halftime, something that Kelvin said is, okay, listen, we can't keep going at Zion, James, and Tyrese Proctor. I actually think Colin Knippel can handle his own defensively on the perimeter, but it's pick your poison, right? And if you are now Houston, do you want to go at the length of Elijah Martin or Will Richard, or do you want to go at Walter Clayton? And even if Walt was an elite defensive player, which he is not, by the way, but even if he was, let's just keep getting him tired. Let's keep getting him tired.
And it's also the fact that he's struggling offensively to score the ball. So maybe this guy's starting to get in his head.
Frustration
fouls.
on
the right frustration foul, which probably was right there.
These are our 6th free throws of the night that we have seen. Milos Uzan, the 3rd player now at the stripe. Alex Condon in the opening half for UF hit both of his free throws. Jawan Roberts, 1 of 2 at the charity stripe, and Milos Uzan bearing both there. So Houston out to a 36-30 lead, about 2.5 minutes gone.
That wasn't even close.
That's the second consecutive offensive possession. Just get some hooks up.
You know what the funny thing is? Kevin's right. I'd shoot that. If foul call, you know why? I got to see one go in the basket.
100%.
Shoot the ball.
Houston should have done anything in their power if he did hoist that to knock it out before he gets there.
Exactly.
That foul call on Will Richard trying to set a screen for Walter Clayton Jr., who still has 0 points. So 2 consecutive possessions, Kev, an offensive foul on a legal screen on Florida.
4 fouls already on Florida. So we the Houston team total that I bet is going to be in a really good position. How about a 5th foul on Florida?
Look at that. And
that's 2 really quick on Will Richard, who again leading scorer in the opening half. He only in double figures with 14.
And another play that involves Tugler that could have been the 3rd foul. So you could see Todd Golden trying to say, let's try to get him that 3rd foul.
They just teed up Florida's coach.
They just
teed up Florida's coach.
Come on.
Why are you so against? Why? What if he deserved it? We have no idea.
Everybody thinks the coach is arguing for things just to be called evenly there. That
looks like that could have been a double foul or Tugler, because Tugler did go into his space.
I mean, it looked like a lot of nothing to me, but here's what I think's incredible, okay?
LJ Cryer at the line.
That helps him. Gets him going a little bit.
There were 4 first-half fouls.
Yeah.
There are now 5 on Florida. I wonder...
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Did Golden go into the locker room and go, hey, they're calling it loose, be physical, be aggressive.
Yeah.
And Calvin's like, hey, look, they're probably going to tighten this thing up. Be smart. It's possible.
Or they look at, see, referees watch a lot of film, right? So
they're showing the replay here where Todd Golden is. I think he's just out of the coaching
it's on the bench.
box.
It's on the bench.
It's on the bench. It was a
It's got to be on the bench, right?
Technical. I don't think it was on goal. I think it was on one of the assistants.
LJ Cryer makes 1 of the 2 technical free throws. 5 fouls in the first 2 minutes and 40 seconds for Florida here in the second half, JY. Houston 2 fouls away from being the penalty and the 1-and-1. We saw 2 first-half free throws for the Cougs.
And I think the other thing is this. You talk about, I said that the referees watch a lot of tape. If you start doing something,
that's a clean
you don't,
look.
If you
really
start,
good inbound
yes!
on the baseline.
And here's the thing.
Extend.
Another.
And I think the thing is, if you don't do what you do defensively and you try to do something else, referees are going to see it. Now that's big. That's a foul on Tugler. So that's 3rd foul.
That's on the ground.
That's on the ground. That will not be a shooting foul.
Because there's been 11 points in the second half so far, and I need over 12.5. That would have been very helpful and would have gotten Walter Clayton Jr. on the board, but called on the ground. Yes.
And I think the other thing is this. That's the second time, 2 out of 3 fouls with Tugler, Walter Clayton going to his left, away from the basket, and he's reaching in. If I'm Calvin Sampson, he is hearing an absolute earful right now.
Houston up by double digits, the largest lead of the night for either team.
That's displacement. Now they're going to try to even it up. Watch.
Yeah, so now we're getting a couple of whistles.
Really
here.
good for the total.
Yep.
4
exactly.
total personal fouls called in the opening half. That was it. And because of that, Kev, that live total at the break was 135.5. It just touched our pregame number for the first time in a while at 140 and a hook.
Yeah, this is great for the over because you're going to get a ton of free throws probably now, especially it's a championship game. So let's just say the Gators are down 7. Yeah. You're fouling. You're the whole way, right? So you have to factor that in.
This is where you normally would think Walter Clayton Jr. would look to be aggressive. He's having a tough time getting anything, and he just threw the basketball away.
So you and I talked about this the other night. I think the easiest thing to guard is when a three-point shooter has no interest in doing anything other than shooting a 3.
Yeah,
because all the dribbling,
you're
not going to go behind me. I'm daring you to beat me. You don't want to beat me. He, for some reason, has not made an adjustment now 24 minutes into this game of go to the basket.
No, and you'll see they went right back to the same play. They get him on an island with Cryer and let Cryer go. So now you have to see who's going to fill it in.
And I need 2 points here in 25 seconds. Jawan drop.
You got it?
Did. First 4 minutes over 12 and a half.
Handshake.
Let me make sure I did my math correctly.
Handshake.
Right? Yes, that is what. We've got 13
That's
points.
That's a Gator backer, man.
Houston now up by 12, 40-27. 42-30. Yes, I'm not feeling great about my Florida National Championship ticket. And Will Richard unable to convert with a good look on a corner three. Live line, 9.5 points, guys, in favor of the Cougars. Largest spread we've seen tonight.
You got to get a timeout here if you get a score here.
Juwan! Get it! Get it out! Timeout!
Smart.
They got it. Javier Francis on the offensive glass gets the rebound, a timeout, more than 4 minutes gone.
We're going to get your favorite. You know what this is going to be? Timeout.
No.
And then immediate
next ball, we're going to the under 16-minute immediate timeout.
The best is what Kevin are going to do it again, which was last time was timeout.
Free throw.
Yeah,
timeout. Yeah, more than 8 minutes gone. That opening half.
No, there wasn't a foul call there.
How do you think we're getting all this money?
Yeah.
Those commercials. Don't let your commercials interrupt a national championship
You like that
game.
one?
I did. I thought that was great. Houston, by the way, now up by 12, 42-30. Largest advantage for the Cougs or either team tonight. Live line, 9.5 in favor of Houston. Is there value anywhere with what we are seeing from the live odds perspective? They live total at 136.5 as well. We'll tell you on the other side of the break on SportsGrid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
As we return from the timeout, fewer than 5 minutes gone in the second half. Houston leading by 12 at the break, 42-30. A missed LJ Cryer jumper results in an offensive possession for Florida. And a good look from Walter Clayton Jr. to Alex Condon, who flushes it home. He's now in double figures over his pregame points prop of 8.5. He gets into double digits for just the second time in the NCAA tournament. And might we finally see Walter Clayton Jr. score a point in the national championship game? Now we get to the under 16-minute media timeout, our first in the second half. But when we return to action, Walter Clayton Jr. guys will be at the charity stripe.
So you got to think right now his number for 15 points is at plus 470. You expect to get 2 in this instance. That is the number on FanDuel. Him to get, wow. So here's one of those gaps.
Yeah.
Him to get 15 on DraftKings, plus 225. Same exact number on FanDuel, plus 470. You know, a monstrous gap. Now, I'm not running to it, admittedly. I'm not. That number doesn't speak to me because he's so behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
It's going to have to come with some threes. So Walter to make 3 threes is 4-1. I mean, I get it. Not running.
Yeah.
Not sprinting.
I believe that field goal attempt, which will result in 2 free throws at the charity stripe, was the first for Walter Clayton Jr. in quite some time. Because after he missed his opening 4 threes in the first half, he really did not look to be aggressive, JY, on the offensive end, at least in getting his own shot. He does have 7 dimes so far in the national championship game. More than 5 minutes gone, under 16-minute media timeout, but 14:57 remains. It sounds like the old adage, you just got to see a couple go in. How crucial could these free throws be for Walter Clayton Jr. just to change that mindset?
It's everything. That's what we talked about when they called the illegal screen. Why not shoot the ball to see it go in the basket? So to me, I've always used to tell my players, my guards, if you're struggling shooting the ball, get to the line, get your 2 free throws, and get your form, and most importantly, your confidence back. But as much as we're going to talk about Walter Clayton in regards to the shooting, the passing has been dynamic. And what I saw was important. The last 2 defensive possessions, they went back to that switch action, had Uzan guard him, forced bad shot, got a steal next time out. So now, does Calvin Sampson go to something else? Because now it looks like Walter, at least defensively, is a little bit more dialed in, Kev.
I thought the shot LJ missed actually is one he'll take all day. If I'm Calvin, I wouldn't mind once or twice letting a Sharp get that look. Tell him, listen to me, not the 32-footer. Take him off the bounce, because Sharp is much bigger than Cryer and obviously then in turn Clayton.
Yes.
You want to have everyone going, right? That's the dream scenario. Now, look, I know I say it jokingly, but I'm like, Emmanuel Sharp doesn't feel like he's a cold right now. Emmanuel Sharp's like, I don't even know why we're not drawing plays up for me. Mm-hmm. So that confidence will be there. For sure. Kid's 1 of 8, 0 for 5, 2 points. And he's not impacting the game offensively anywhere else. Defensively, Sharp is always a force for this team.
0 of 5 from 3, and as we have seen in the last 2 games for Houston, of course, against Duke, hitting that clutch 3 with about 30 seconds remaining, he was 2 of 6 at that point, burying that triple for the Cougs. JY, we saw Emmanuel Sharp in the Elite 8 against Tennessee take some crazy-looking threes at the end, even with Houston in front by a comfortable advantage after starting 0 from 3. He made his last 3 in a row, I believe, for Houston to end out that game. Might have been 1 of 7 to start, but at least buried his final 3 to build that confidence. He is never lacking in that. What's concerning if you're Walter Clayton Jr., who finally gets on the board connecting on his first free throw, I think was the lack of confidence we saw when he got the switch against Javier Francis, the big, and really did not look to attack down the lane.
Yeah, and I think that's what Ty Golden was mad at. And I think if I'm Ty Golden ready, I'm running my next play for Walter Clayton. You've gotten 2 quick points. You got the ball going to the basket. See if you get something on the run. Doesn't have to be a 3. Either get to the foul or get some kind of pull-up.
Bonus already, by the way, for Houston.
Yeah, huge.
So that is massive. And that's going to – now, for Florida, if they're missing – if they miss the front end of those free throws, that could be big for them in an attempt to make a comeback.
What?
Great shot by Juwan Roberts, and maybe some contact there. But no foul call on Alex Condon. Houston once again extends that lead back to 10. Clean look for Walter Clayton Jr., but unable to convert on a shot that you would expect him to make 10 times out of 10, at least 9
Looks like he got
out
hit.
of 10.
At least Ty Golden is trying to get that foul call. And Todd's got to be careful because there is a bench technical, looks like, so far.
So to both of you, right, we talk about things in dog years when you are playing Houston. If they are up by double digits and in control of the tempo, how much in reality really a 10-point lead as Emmanuel Sharp will head
you see what he did?
To the foul line as well.
He took a dive, and he's going to the Walter Clayton playbook, which is I haven't hit a shot. Let me go to the free throw line.
Yeah.
Let me knock a couple down.
Pushed him.
What?
He pushed him.
There was some contact there.
I'm just, I don't know.
Was it bad? I mean, I was looking away.
It wasn't like he's going to get thrown out of the game bad, but he did push him.
Still a savvy play to take the contact and fall to make sure that you head to the line. But here we are, fewer than 6 minutes into the second half, and Houston's already in the penalty. They're shooting the 1-and-1 right now, and he made his first.
Francis didn't think he was making it. Francis started running back on defense as soon as the shot was.
Out of that night for Emmanuel Sharp, but 1 of 8 from the floor, 0 5 from 3.
To your question, right? What is now dire for Florida, is, of course, your offense needs to find a rhythm, right? And that's hard enough to do. Duke found a rhythm for about 7 minutes of the game yesterday, but outside of that, it was a disaster for them. But let's say Florida can find that rhythm. You also need to force Houston to go cold.
That's a foul.
Okay?
Francis.
Yeah.
I mean,
but now that they're in the bonus, Houston can generate drought stoppers easy.
For sure.
And, again, that's where the total's in a really good spot, in my opinion. And I think the pregame over. I'm not going to go yet. But does Florida get that barrage of threes at some point? 2 made in 5 possessions. Even like that will feel like, whoa, my goodness, right?
Sure. And we did bet that 2+ made 3 from 11:59 to 8. We're taking a look at something here, a potential hook and hold on Jawan Roberts. A foul was whistled on the floor. That will be the second on Roberts as he was battling for a rebound against Alex Condon. By the way, as we saw Tom miss a 3 from straight away. Everybody not named Will Richard for the Gators.
What are you looking at?
0 of 10 from deep so far in the national championship. More on Bracket Central next.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and you know, launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
So that whistle that was non-existent in the opening half with only 4 personals between the two teams combined is here right now in the second half. Houston already in the bonus. One more foul on the Cougs against Florida. The Gators will be there as well. Can Milos Uzan finally make a 3 in San Antonio?
Watch the spin.
He only had 1 out of, I believe, now 8 total tries in the Final Four and the national championship game. Florida has cut this deficit back to single digits with just under 13 minutes remaining here in regulation. And JY, we talked about it at the break. Would the referees continue to let them play? Would the coaches be looking for a more eager whistle in the second half? That is what we have seen. Elijah Martin connects from 3, the first player not named Will Richard for Florida to hit a 3 tonight. 6-point advantage now for Houston.
Yeah, big 3 by Elijah Martin there. Houston kind of going a little bit cold. You wonder if you can't really burn another timeout if you're Kelvin Sampson because you only got 2 left. So you're going to have to try and play this under the 12-minute media timeout. So Florida, you can see them extending their defense here.
That's a bad job by Cryer.
Great look by L.J. Cryer.
And that's a
Thomas
foul.
Houck
And
get
one.
rewarded. Yes, he does. A great defensive play to swat the shot of L.J. Cryer, and then in transition gets the basketball back, gets a hoop, and the harm, the old-fashioned 3, coming with Houck at the charity stripe. Kev, this could
down
cut
to
it back
1.5.
to a single-possession game.
Spread down to 1.5, minus 130 was the money line.
Yeah.
Sportsbooks are a little bit ahead, so okay, we'll leave it at that. 138.5 listed total. That's coming up a little bit here. It's interesting, just the national player or the most outstanding player market. It still suggests it's Clayton. If it's Florida, we all feel like that's the case, but also, he's going to have to score a little bit more, I would think.
For sure.
I would think in this spot here.
I don't think you can end with 2 points, and even how proficient he has been passing the basketball, 7 assists to 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
I would still find it hard for the most outstanding player to have 2 points in the most important game of the 2, at least in San Antonio.
I guess the counter is it's very unlikely he is going to finish with 2 and they win this game.
Right.
Like, even if others are stepping up now to get them back within this game, it feels unlikely that this game is a Florida win and he hasn't found the bottom of the net a couple of other times.
And confidence begets confidence, right? If Thomas Houck starts to feel it and Elijah Martin has made a few, maybe that opens it up a little bit for Walter Clayton Jr., who has still failed to connect on a field goal so far in this game, 0 of 5 and 0 of 4 from 3, but did make his 2 free throw tries. 45-41, 12:06 remaining here, I believe. Yeah, we're still not at the under 12-minute media timeout. Was there a timeout called by Florida?
No, I think it was timeout called by Houston. I think Kelvin Sampson went to the timeout.
But you said he only had 2.
They're leaving him 1. I don't know why Florida would call a timeout because they have all their momentum. So I
and then
think
you
Houston.
ice your free throw shooter
Right.
as well.
Interesting. I just saw Walter Clayton Jr. He's got 7, 10-plus assists plus 210. If you continue to play the ball screen the same way, it should lend itself to more roll opportunities. So I'm intrigued by that. Walter Clayton Jr. 10-plus assists plus 210.
And when we did see Houston up by as many as 12 points, in fact, their largest lead of the night, to Kev's point, it got to a 9.5-point live spread in favor of the Cougs, who, of course, were a slight pregame underdog. Now a 2.5-point live spread in favor of Houston. That live total, 138.5. Is there any value now in any of these numbers as Florida has started at least to find its way back into the basketball?
I'm just trying to find something here. Yeah. I think the question is, if you like Florida, this is obviously the run. You imagine Clayton will check back in. Houston can go cold, right? But, you've missed out on a lot of good numbers as well. So I think that becomes a very difficult part of this year. The Florida team total 68.5. You and I, during a break, saw it at 63.5, which is a number I'm sure anybody who, if they did click on, is feeling fantastic about. There's nothing here that is running off the pay.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the thing with, of course, college basketball, is we don't get NBA level numbers, NFL numbers that people maybe are a little bit more familiar with, or where I would love Emmanuel Sharp to go over at -1, whatever the -110 number is for Sharp. I'd love the -110 number of Clayton.
Yeah.
What would that be? 6.5, 7.5? Right. That'd be interesting to me.
For sure.
But we're not getting that. We're getting 15 at 5-1. And listen, you can take that kind of shot, but I have to believe the bet has a chance to come in, and I don't still feel that in this moment.
He could start playing a lot better than he has so far and still end up with 12 points, and you would call that a very successful final 12 minutes of the national championship game. Thomas Houck at the line for Florida, trying to pay off the old-fashioned 3. The Gators currently down by 4, and in front, 45-41. More to come on SportsGrid next.
okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and you know, launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We are back live right here on National Championship Monday night with Houston in front by 6, 48-42. About 10.5 minutes remaining in regulation. Walter Clayton Jr. continues to be ice cold from the floor. He is now 0 of 6 from the field and 0 of 5 from 3. Kev, you just asked a question right as we returned from break. How many non-Will Richard or LJ Cryer made threes has there been in tonight's national title tilt? 2 combined. Malik Wilson has the other one for Houston. Elijah Martin, the other one for Florida. We need another one from the 11:59 to 8-minute mark as LJ Cryer to deliver our first 3 in this window. Not a great offensive possession there for the Cougs. I believe a shot clock violation. Houston in front by 6, 48-42. Our live spread at this moment back to 4.
He got hit.
In favor of the Cougs, as they just showed a replay that maybe Walter Clayton Jr. was off because he tried to shoot that through contact.
Yeah, a little surprised with all the fouls they've called that they didn't call that one. Would have been Houston's 9th, which would have been double bonus the rest of the way for Florida. That also means we're going to be here, almost until tomorrow.
It's like a street
with
fight
this game.
Out. Yeah, this is going to be a lengthy 9.5 minutes, despite the fact that nobody has been able to convert. Houston only 4 turnovers, JY, 13 for Florida. They were -7 at the break. They had 9 in the opening half to the Cougs 2. They are now even more losing that turnover battle. 13 turnovers to 4 for Houston and unable to corral a loose ball.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just bad. That's a foul. And that is 4. That could be. I think that's 4 in Tugler. I think that's 4 in Tugler.
It is. Yes, it is.
That's 4 in Tugler. And
4 on Tugler, 2 on Juwan Roberts, 3 on Javier Francis, who had 2 in the span of about 3 seconds earlier in this second half. Nobody with more than 2 on the other side for the Gators. And to Kev's point, we are going to be shooting free throws the remainder of this game on both sides. One more for the double bonus for the Gators.
I'll tell you this. It's starting to now feel as if Houston is missing their chance to, leave no doubt.
Yes.
Right? And we talked about from the total perspective where you bet a game, you go, hey, I'm going to get some good three-point volume here, and, these are good shooting teams, but it's a one-game wager. And sometimes that three-point shooting continues from the first half to the second half. Sometimes it snaps.
Yeah.
And the three-point shooting has continued to be atrocious in this game. Florida's made 1 3 in the second half. Houston, I think, has made 2. It's not good. I mean, it's, it's as good as the first half, right? But it is still not good. And Houston actually is more reliant, it feels, on the three-point shot than Florida, which makes this concerning.
There's the ice.
LJ Cryer, 4 of 11 from 3. His teammates are 1 of 12. Will Richard is 4 of 7 from 3. His teammates are 1 of 14. Again, we have said it so many times tonight. Malik Wilson is not option number 1 offensively for Houston. A great hustle player, a great defensive player for sure, as Florida was trying to get it back to a single possession game.
Him. That's 3 on him. Is that 4 on him? That's 4 on Francis.
4 on Javier Francis. You know what we haven't seen a lot of tonight? Terrence Arsenault. For Houston, for whatever reason.
That is a foul,
That is a foul. As Ruben Chinyelu goes up for a bucket. Looks like he probably should have converted through contact, but the 4th personal foul on Javier Francis. That's a shooting foul, so Chinyelu is shooting 2 free throws. But Kev, to your point, Florida now in the double bonus for the remainder of the 8.5 minutes left in the national championship game.
Yeah, and I'll say, look, we're here to not just react to this game, but to get involved with this game. This is a hard game to get involved with. I'm on the over a few times. I'm not scared to be on it again, but it is trending poorly.
Yeah.
But the fouls tell us anything's possible. So I am, it feels a bit on the sidelines, relatively speaking to the in-game total.
For sure, and I would say specifically in a game that is now just a single possession for the first time in a while, as Florida has cut the deficit to 3. The foul game is going to be critical because this game is going to be extended time and again. JY, what is the biggest thing that Houston needs to fix offensively here as Florida has started to stifle that Cougs offense?
I think the guy that got the ball, just turned it over. I thought he needed to go. I think he needs to go inside out. They have no flow offensively from the perimeter, so you have to try something different. I don't know if Jerron Roberts getting it 20 feet from the basket trying to score is what you want, but you have to try something different because they're all out of sorts offensively on the perimeter.
A catch-and-shoot 3 opportunity would be nice. Cryer's been able to hit those when they've come.
Wow, that's
another beautiful inbound play design from Kelvin Sampson that ends up with a bunny to his left hand for Juwan Roberts. That's probably a 3 that Walter Clayton Jr. takes in the Final Four instead. Gets to the cup, gets fouled, and gets it in.
Houston's in trouble.
Florida has an opportunity here to tie this game, to equal us up for the first time in a long time as we get to the under 8-minute media timeout, as Walter Clayton Jr. will look for the old-fashioned 3 with his team down by just a point in 7:54 remaining in the national title game.
I don't think it's a very good call, but they have pushed Florida to in-game favorites now. Minus 128 in the money line, back to a 1.5-point favorite here. Walt as good as anyone in the country at the line, so you're expecting this to be a tie ball game now. Also, just quickly, those race 2 markets that people love, Houston has won every single one of them. A miraculous race to 50 potential for Gator backers.
I think one thing that I've seen is in a couple of drives is you've seen the bigs. Chinelu did a good job there of sealing off the big in regards to keep your pulse up and kind of ride them up the lane a little bit. So when you get a driving lane, Houston has got really great shot blockers, don't have the ability to block the shot. So pretty good offense here. And then obviously this becomes a critical possession to me for Houston. Like where do you go? Because there isn't really a lot of options if you want to talk about Roberts 3 for 12, Sharp 1 for 9, Cryer 5 for 15, Uzon 2 for 7. I don't know where you go at this point.
LJ Cryer has really been that offensive spark, but even not the most efficient night for Houston's leading scorer. The Cougars have never trailed in this game. They got the first bucket, and they have either led or at least been equal with the Gators the entirety of the 32-plus minutes we have seen tonight in the national championship game. The last time we were even all square was with about 12 and a half minutes remaining before Milos Uzan made a jumper to put the Cougars back in front. And Kev, to your point, we now see Florida a slight favorite of 1.5 and minus 128 on that money line. 130 and a hook is the total. The over has the juice at minus 125. Knowing that this could be equal by the time we return from the under 8-minute media timeout, is there any value in backing the over, seeing as many free throws as we are going to hope for down the final 8 minutes of this game.
The thing I worry about, though, is very slow tempo across the card.
Yeah.
Florida might think, okay, listen, we're here, we're in it, and I don't think it would be wise for them to slow it down, but they just might.
Yeah.
And, Houston, I mean, they're already asleep, right? I mean, offensively, you're going to need it in bunches, man. We've talked about it throughout our show tonight. All of the, oh, man, if only X was playing better for Florida was all true for Houston. Walter Clayton is waking up much earlier than Milos Uzan or Manny Sharp. Because Uzan is now, by the way, 2 of 7 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3. So now it's Uzan and Sharp, a combined 3 of 16, 0 of 9 from beyond the arc.
Yep.
That's a disaster.
Again, we have only seen one other player for both Florida and Houston hit a 3, not named Will Richard for the Gators. It was Elijah Martin, not named LJ Cryer for the Cougars. It was Malik Wilson early in the opening half and off glass. We have returned from the under 8-minute media timeout with Walter Clayton Jr. at the line, trying to tie us up once again, JY, at 48 all. We're starting to feel that momentum shift in favor of Florida. What do you think the Gators do here in the next few minutes?
I think they're going to try and make this run like they did against Auburn and try and push the pace here. I think Walter Clayton knocks us down and tries to get another one to go down. Big stop here. This may be the biggest pitch in the game right now coming up for Houston.
Of course, Houston will be remembered as the comeback kids of this NCAA tournament because of the Final Four stunner against Duke. Florida's been in this spot many a time so far in the Big Dance. Experience win out. Find out next in the National Championship.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
.713 remains in the national championship game in a critical moment that you all just saw while we were at commercial break. Juwan Roberts and Houston trying to find an offensive bucket late in the shot clock. He drives to his left. He gets fouled by Ruben Chinyelu. Yes, a questionable foul call perhaps, but Chinyelu then takes the ball, slams it into the hardwood right in front of the referee. An obvious technical foul. LJ Cryer makes both technical free throws, and Juwan Roberts converts 1 of 2 from the stripe. Houston now back in front by 3, 51-49. 48.
Nice
and
play.
one. Oh my
Goodness. A
nice play.
Wonderful offensive design right there to get Walter Clayton Jr. an easy bucket.
Yeah.
JY, this guy's starting to wake up. He will have his second consecutive try, the old-fashioned three-point play on a great pass from Thomas House.
You run a horn set with a rub screen. So you throw it to House, you run him off of it because it's on the strong side. You can't help the strong side. Malik Wilson comes in late, basket and a foul.
With the made free throw here,
yeah,
that's 25 plus for he and Cryer combined. Easy as you like. Probably should have just kept going up because of just kind of who those players are. And also, again, sometimes things are, we don't know everything.
Yeah.
We can get a sense for a game.
There's a matchup.
Walter just took far too long to think about even being inside the basket with some of his attempts, and we've seen how now fruitful that has been for him.
And a tough look there for LJ Cryer.
It's a great move, but I don't know why the 15 fakes. Right? I just thought he should have shot it right away here, and then a miss left
from
here.
Elijah Martin.
He's shooting
unable to pay it off.
He wanted to.
Manuel Sharp thought about it. Malik Wilson has to. Okay. Real quick. But Malik Wilson does convert to put Houston back in front, 53-51. Guys, we've got 6:15 remaining in regulation. A single possession game, a 2-point game to decide a national championship. By the way, Walter Clayton Jr. now with 8 as Denzel Aberdeen equalizes once again for the Gators. We're going back and forth here with 6 minutes left.
They found something with that horns action. This time they went horns away, so they went away and they sent him the other way, and he was open, and then it forced a drive on a help.
Horns meaning what, JY?
Horns meaning
there he is.
Attaboy, man!
So never
he's hot until he's not, baby.
Sharp hits his first 3 of the night, 0 of 6 to begin. Now 1 of 7. The Cougs back in front by 3.
So horns action basically means that you put 2 guys at the elbow or at the top of the key, and then you put 2 guys into the corner. So it looks like a horn, right? So the thought process is you run Clayton off of it, and because you have 2 shooters in the corner, you can't help off of it. They went horns strong first time, went help with the duck in, and then they went horns away second time.
You take a look at that live total? That's why I gave you a slap on the right arm. 137.5, getting back up there ever so slightly as we have exchanged some buckets back and forth. So after the made bucket for Florida, Alex Condon, a good ball fake to get the Gators back to within 1. Todd Golden calls a timeout. The Gators still have 2 remaining in this second half. Houston only with 1 left. 56-54, Houston in front. They're an ever so slight money line favorite at -125. Again, that live total 137.5.
And I think what Coach Golden basically did is he took his timeout to give his guys a rest, knowing that in a minute and a half, you get the under 4-minute timeout.
Yeah.
So if this was more of a rest, like his 5 guys, he's got his 5. And he's saying, okay, there's your break, relax. Then we got the under 4 timeout, and then I got 2 timeouts to end the game if I need to use them.
Combined threes in the game is 15 at +170. That's 4 more.
4 more.
This game could get it to overtime.
It could.
We cannot rule that out.
No doubt. Both teams in the double bonus, by the way. The next foul on Florida will be the 10th on the Gators here in this second half. We'll be shooting 2 free throws the remainder of the 5.5 minutes we have in this national championship game. We expected it to be close, a razor-thin margin. A 1-point Houston lead with just about 5:15 left in regulation. Emmanuel Sharp, 5 quick points. The confidence grows for the Cougs.
Because now you thought he was going to shoot the 3, now it's going to the basket. Now next time you come off it, now the 3 should be available.
Now, can I just say?
Yeah.
Remember we were talking pregame? You're like, oh, what happens if they put Manny on the ball? They've done it 2 possessions. He just took both shots. Dude, I'm telling you, he plays a different game.
We also have Emmanuel Sharp face guarding Walter Clayton Jr. about 30 feet away from the bucket, always consistent on the defensive end.
That's a foul?
Oh, bailout smash.
From the baseline.
That can't be a baseline ref call.
Baseline ref.
And that was near the half-court logo.
That's one of your Kelvin Sampson. You say you have 4 eyes that are above the foul line that have access to it. Now, is this a foul here?
Look at the replay.
So first of all, that's a
Juwan
travel.
Roberts arm.
No, that's so bad.
The optics of it worse than the actual contact.
But they didn't call it on Juwan. I think they called it on
Cryer.
On Cryer from behind.
Yeah, called it on LJ.
Yeah. And the referee wasn't even had the angle to see that. So that was
a look from Kelvin Sampson, who we can see get a little bit exasperated throughout games. It was just the look that your parents give you, where you're like.
You have 4 referees on the court that are right there looking at it.
And Will Richard pays it off with making both free throws. That look from Kelvin Sampson was your parents. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed as he glared into the referee's soul.
Yeah.
Can anyone possibly figure out how these officials have been officiated both halves?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's a great question.
Like, if this is
we talked about it, but I didn't expect this.
But why? Right? Why would you call 2 completely different basketball games?
And I don't really think anything has been all that egregious. Javier Francis, a couple of stuffs tonight where it has been incredibly athletic at the cup. Houston back in front by 3, 60-57.
Still doubling.
And they are making Walter Clayton Jr. earn it. Alex Condon not
Good
trying.
Switch. That should be
Just
foul.
over 4 minutes left here in regulation. The Gators down by 3. Houston 4 minutes away, up by 3 from its first national championship in program history.
Oh,
Making
nice
it hard on the
move.
Gators
Yeah,
offensively
right,
to
JY.
find anything
That was a good spin
Yeah,
back.
right. You're lucky he didn't travel. Get out of here, Con.
That's called the spin back. It was a good play.
Yeah, that's called a. Get out of here.
You're a big guard. You don't know that move.
No, yeah, right.
You're a big guard.
JY's gonna get bumped off this table.
I thought I was going to be the guy getting beat up. 60-57, Houston in front.
Manny Sharpshooter
3.5 minutes remaining. The live total has been locked. The Cougs ahead by 3.
Out of
3.5
bounds. Oh, my
in San Antonio. Plenty more next.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
.24 remains in the second half of our national championship game here in 2025. Houston up by 3, 60-57 at the under 4 minute media timeout. 3 minutes and 24 seconds away from the Cougs' first ever national championship in program history, the first ever for Kelvin Sampson as well. An update on the live odds, as we are going to start to put our laptops and electronic devices away to react in genuine real time with all of you. Houston is a 1.5 favorite in that live spread, minus 154 on the money line in that total at 134.5. Anytime there is a stoppage or a dead ball, we'll refresh those odds if we feel there is a live wagering opportunity available. But as we return with 3:24 remaining in the national championship game, Kev, Houston in front by 3.
Yeah, the Cougars are going to have to rely on their defense down the stretch here, man. They're going to have to make free throws as well.
Bring him back.
The question is, Walter Clayton.
Oh, what a great.
Is he going to hit his first 3 of the night? He does.
But what a play call. Horns, you got 2 layups. You send them, you rescreen, bring them back for a 3.
Walter Clayton Jr.'s first triple of the night has tied this game at 60 all.
I believe he's only had 1 game this season without a made 3. I mean, he's had very few games in his whole Florida career without a made 3.
Interesting.
So
Roberts?
That was always coming.
Yeah.
The question is, as he has done in so many of these games, does he now think to himself, oh, I've got it going? And do those keep coming out of the hand, and do they keep then finding the bottom of the net?
We are tied at 60 with 2:40 left in the national championship.
Nice putback.
Nice putback.
But Houston is now in front once again on a putback tip. The Cougs now lead 62-60. 2.5 minutes remain. That was LJ Cryer credited with the bucket. Guys, we expected this game with a money line distinction of 7 cents to be super duper close. That's what we're seeing here as Will Richard battles for the offensive board and gets fouled. He will head to the free throw line with 2 foul shots upcoming.
Yeah, I'm surprised there wasn't a foul called on the loose ball. It's no different. It's double bonus. That's going to go against, I assume, Uzan, right, Coach?
Yeah, it's going to go against Uzan. I want to see them replay it because it looked like they were battling. What a tip in by Cryer. I wanted to see that they were battling for position, but obviously Uzan was behind, so he grabbed. You're taught if you are behind, you take you and them out of the play, meaning take both of you guys out of the rebound instead of letting him get the O board.
It's also trivial if Florida loses this game, but now into double figures with the assist that he has had and, of course, the Final Four performance, there's no doubt if Florida wins a national championship and cuts down the nets, Walter Clayton Jr. is winning most outstanding player. Same story on the other side. I think it's LJ Cryer for Houston.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think there's really any pathway now.
Yeah.
Again, I think it would require, like, the game goes to overtime. One of those guys is unavailable in overtime, and then some guy goes berserk in overtime. But, again, you're talking about a very unlikely situation here. Now, see, that's a good foul.
That's a good foul. It's Tugler to the foul line. I don't even know if Tugler.
I think it was JoJo Tugler, yes.
Yeah. I don't even know if JoJo's a good free throw.
I don't know if I can say it's a good foul. It's a fine foul, right? Because you're putting Tugler to the line. So you'll take it.
Okay, they have a graphic up on the broadcast for Jawan Roberts, but it will be JoJo Tugler at the line in a game tied at 62 all with 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
And he shoots 56% from the foul line. So actually, it is a good foul. You're open for 1 out of 2.
He gets 2, though. And the confidence of knowing that you get 2, I think has to help a foul shooter in this spot. Houston in front by 1. We're going to be sweating out some national championship tickets and a whole lot of moolah here down the stretch in the final 2 minutes and 5 seconds. The game hasn't been all that pretty offensively at times, but in terms of how tightly contested it has been, it has lived up to the billing. 120 seconds left. Florida trails by 1, 63-62. Been clutch all tournament long, but Walter Clayton Jr. misses on a 3 there.
You can live with that one because he hit the last one. I'd rather him go to the basket.
Houston needs a bucket here, man.
They're going to go through. They're going to go through Cryer. Try to get some kind of switch.
No, I get it over to Sharp though with Clayton on him.
Ooh, JoJo Tugler in some danger.
They're getting away from what worked.
Shot clock. Again, we can't provide
live
play-by-play. That ball was blocked, and JoJo Tugler made a really smart play. Just grabbing Thomas.
And back it up.
So the ball goes out of bounds with 4.3 left on the shot clock as Will Richard makes a great defensive play on a questionable shot from Milos Uzan.
Watch Roberts on a slip. They got him earlier in the game. He missed a layup. So I wonder if they do some play to get him to the basket.
1:28 remains in the national championship game. As things often happen on an in-game live type of show here on Bracket Central, we are approaching our break in about 13 seconds. LJ Cryer unable to convert. But JoJo Cutler gets a huge offensive board. Whistle on the 4, off on Houston. I think they'll go to review.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
What a time to join us here on SportsGrid's back at Central on National Championship Monday. Our laptops are shut. Our phones are locked. Houston in front by a single point, 63-62, with 46.5 seconds remaining in the national championship. Elijah Martin fouled on a drive to the cup for the Florida Gators. Hits his first free throw. We are tied at 63 apiece. You are not missing anything from the live wagering opportunities. The odds are locked. It's about seeing the result here in a national championship game. Elijah Martin with one more free throw attempt and put Florida ahead, and he does. The Gators, their first lead in a long, long time. 64-63. The Gators ahead by a point. I believe that was Kelvin Sampson's last time out. Jim.
Yeah, I believe so, too. I'm just going to look, because I think if you're Todd Golden, you may want to do it to set your defense up. Florida timeout. Okay. So it makes sense to use it to just kind of set your defense.
Quick look. Live over-under is locked. Florida is an ever-so-slight favorite on that live money line, minus 125. We are basically back to where we started after 39 minutes and 15 seconds. With 46.5 to go, the Gators in front by one, Kev, with a national championship at stake.
Yeah, I feel as if the Houston offense got away with one of the things that got them their big lead, which was attacking Clayton. And I know LJ's had the hot hand, but really what, again, got him that was attacking Clayton. Going at these huge wings, Martin, Richard, Howe, that is not the appropriate approach. Also, and I'm not blaming a Houston potential loss on the refs, but the inconsistency from this group is astonishing. These drives now from Houston that all were resulting in fouls for 15, 16 minutes, now not at all. Their contact is irrelevant. So that has been a little bit jarring here. you're the coach. You can dial up the play. I would say I'd want to go at Clayton any way possible.
Yeah, I tried to get a switch on Clayton to see. Clayton right now is look like he's on Emmanuel Sharp. So you're going to run some kind of action here. See if you get some kind of switch right here. But it looks like it's going to be Uzon. It's going to get the ball with some kind of screen here.
We approach 30 seconds remaining in regulation. Houston down to about 10 on the shot clock. Emmanuel Sharp tries to drive and turns the basketball over. Out of bounds on the Cougs. It will be reviewed, but it looks pretty crystal clear. That was off on Emmanuel Sharp. If it is, 26 and a half seconds remain with Florida in front by 1 and in possession of the basketball.
See, what I didn't like there from Houston is I didn't like the spacing, how they had it set up. I would have started with Cryer a little bit higher, and then as the drive happens, sink him to the corner. Cryer had nowhere to go. So that allowed whoever was guarding Cryer to step into that lane and take that away and not have it. He didn't have anywhere to go. Like, Sharp had to go because there was no spacing there in the corner.
He didn't have anywhere to go the whole time, and he just kept going. So now all the things I loved about Emmanuel Sharp coming back to bite me in an oh-so-important moment. Again, this is a Houston team who offensively is – I mean, here's my issue, right? They weren't. None of that was drawn for Sharp. No. That's why it all looked so muddied. Yeah. They were just still trying to run a Cryer switch. Cryer is being guarded by better defensive players. So what Kelvin kept saying he did correctly against Duke, he's now not doing against Florida, and I can't figure that out.
We're trying to figure out a couple of things here. Of course, who's in possession of the basketball? Who is it out on? Call on the floor was out on Houston with 26 and a half seconds remaining. Of course, the referees trying to figure out just exactly how much time remains. Again, call on the floor was off on Houston. I think they are going to go piece by piece to try to see the rotation of the ball change. And if it's off Will Richards' hands, we don't have audio here. So if the guys in the back can figure out what's happening, Florida has the basketball. 26.6, which means, JY, shot clock is off for the remainder of regulation. Doubly means the Cougars have to foul, and Florida's in the double bonus.
Yeah, probably what you'll do is kind of we were talking about with Kevin when we were doing the game with Duke. You try and get a trap first, and then if you get out of the trap, then you foul. So trap first, allow the first trap, and then go from there.
Walter Clayton is inbounding this basketball.
I like it, though.
And he cannot move. This was not a make. This was a turnover.
Foul him! Ref, there's no plausible way they get the ball, Milos!
Oh, you're traveling. Something out of bounds. Oh, they called the foul first. Wow.
Florida had just a little bit of issue. Clayton inbounded it to Thomas Houck, who got the ball quickly back to the inbounder, that being Walter Clayton Jr., who threw a go-ahead pass to Denzel Aberdeen, who had to track it down,
and he did.
It looked like that pivot foot maybe moved a little bit, but a foul on Milos Uzan was whistled. Denzel Aberdeen, with fewer than 20 seconds remaining in the national championship game, Florida ahead by 1, is at the stripe. He misses the first of
Get this thing to overtime.
19.7 seconds remaining in regulation. Denzel Aberdeen's second free throw coming up. Houston does still have one timeout left, JY.
Yeah, so they'll probably, unless they have a play that they know they're going to call, they'll advance it to the front court quickly and then call their last timeout and set something up down.
This is going to be a single possession game. At best, it's a 2-point lead for Florida, and that's exactly what it is. Denzel Aberdeen takes advantage. Alex Condon checks in defensively for Todd Golden.
Timeout.
He took it now, which was interesting because, and that's actually a smart play by Coach Golden to get someone to the scorer's table just so they don't quickly inbound the ball, advance, and call the timeout. Now you have to take it on the baseline. Maybe with no timeouts left, if you're Todd Golden, you do some kind of soft pressure, 1-2-2, 2-2-1, nothing to trap, but just to slow the momentum down of getting into your offense.
Oh, this is terrible. Here's the reality. If this game goes to overtime, it's all coming in total-wise.
Sure.
Also, if you want a little extra insight, I have a $10 free bet on this game to go to overtime.
I was going to say, the overtime number is at this moment.
I can't imagine that's
plus
posted.
225.
That's crazy. That's actually a decent number.
Yeah.
Plus 225 that they get 2 points. That's a decent bet.
Yeah.
So this getting to overtime would obviously be massive. It extends the game. It gets Houston going. So this is just a massive play here.
Massive.
I am Not incredibly optimistic ultimately, because I feel as if Houston has done so much relying on the three-point shot that if that is how this possession ends, it'll likely be out of control. And I just, the drives have been discombobulated. I don't know if I trust the officials to make a call here, Coach. So it's just, they're up against it, I would say, this possession.
Yeah, I think what you're going to probably see is you're going to probably see some kind of action with some kind of baseline rip with Cryer, and then maybe you take Sharp and run him to that drift in that weak side corner, and they get someone diving down the middle of the floor. But it looks like Florida's just going to pick up full court man just to kind of slow them down.
Again, we can't give you live play-by-play, but we will give you our genuine reactions and takeaway. To set the scene, Florida ahead by 2, 65-63, less than 20 seconds remaining in regulation. Houston out of timeout.
Just go. Forget the play and just go.
The 10-second mark in the national championship game. Florida playing really good defense at this moment. There is only 5 seconds left.
Nope, you can't do it.
And I believe that is going.
That's done.
A loose ball on the floor, a scramble, and Florida recovers. And Florida wins a national championship. 65-63. The Gators will cut down the nets for a third time in the last 20 years. Florida wins a national championship as the horn sounds. Houston unable to get off what would have been a game-tying or a go-ahead attempt from the floor. The Gators win by 2, 65-63. We are back on the other side of the break, live right here on Bracket Central for our final takeaway. Florida, a national champ.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
You watched it go final with us here on SportsGrid's Bracket Central. A national champion has now been crowned in San Antonio. Florida Gators edge out the Houston Cougars 65-63. The Gators win their third national championship in program history, all three coming since the 2005-06 season. The first time the Gators were back in a national championship game since 2007. They will cut down the nets tonight inside the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. It was a mad scramble at the very end. With fewer than 20 seconds remaining in regulation, Houston went the length of the floor. The ball ended up in Emmanuel Sharp's hands. He went up to attempt a three, but did not actually get off the shot. Coming down to the floor, could not touch it. It would have been a turnover. It led to a mad scramble that Florida came away with a loose ball to ice out the clock as it hit triple zeros inside the Alamo Dome. Florida, as the blue and orange confetti falls, is a national champion, 65-63, a final. JY, let's break down those final 20 seconds of what was a wild ending to tonight's national championship game. From your coaching perspective, what did you see?
So first things first, Todd Golden smartly called that timeout to make them go the length of the floor. Now, what you saw is what we call it fake wake action, when you send someone away to bring them back. So they sent Cryer away in a flare and then sent a stagger back. The timing was all off because the second part of the play was supposed to be an elevator screen for Emmanuel Sharp. To understand the elevator screen, if you think about it, folks, you go through the elevator, two guys close it. But Francis was late in getting there, which allowed whoever it was to come through. And at that point, Emmanuel Sharp, you could tell, Ben, they were going for the three. They were going for the win, which questionable at best. But if you're Emmanuel Sharp and you've already got 2 threes blocked earlier in the game, all you have to do is shot fake, slide dribble to your left, and you get a clean look from three. He was shooting it as soon as he was catching, because that's what Emmanuel Sharp does. And unfortunately, Kev, that's what burned him tonight.
As good as Kelvin Sampson was against Duke, is as bad as he was tonight.
Yep.
Here's the thing, man. Your team's out there running with like a chicken with their head cut off offensively. You don't get a pass for that. LJ Cryer was abusing Walter Clayton Jr. Why am every time I'm watching LJ Cryer, it's Howe on him, it's Martin on him, it's Richard on him? Why? And this is a team that didn't score in the final 2 minutes of the game. The point that their most recent was a JoJo Tugler free throw. They made 1 field goal in the final 4 minutes of that game, and it was a Cryer tip-in. The only other field goal that they made within the final 5 minutes of the game were multiple tip-in shots, so they weren't generating any real clean looks on their own, despite the fact that their offense had found a brilliant rhythm to start the second half. And they found it in the same way that they found the rhythm against Duke. How do you let your guys get away from that? I don't know. But then to draw up that play there at the end is not it's greedy and foolish. You're in the double bonus. You have multiple very good free throw shooters on the line there at the guard position. You can absolutely win this game if it gets to overtime. This is not an 11 seed, okay? The game was pick coming into the game. You are fine to go to OT. You wouldn't be going to OT, okay, fine, JoJo Tugler fouled out of the game. You'd be fine. You can handle it. You could manage if that's where the game went. Maybe get an N1 opportunity. Nothing. You're running one play plays. The only thing that could have come out of that was what did or Manny Sharp makes the three. You're not even giving yourself options. They didn't get the ball with 4 seconds left. They got it with 17 seconds left. They decided to take the timeout down at the baseline. They didn't have to do that. They could have just walked it up and had 13 seconds in the half court. That's on them. So, listen, we all know he's an all-time great coach. One of the winningest in the sport. I understand that. But what has failed Kelvin Sampson is always been the offensive side of the ball, and that failed him again here at the end of this game.
But it's more than this one possession. It's the last 6 minutes. It was. They went back to the Jamal Shed, Marcus Sasser, one guy dribble, and shoot. Here's the thing, folks, and I said it, and I was stunned, and Ben was stunned when I said it. Do you know that out of the 23 or 24 field goals that Houston made, they had 5 assists? 5. Do you know how bad that is? Do you know how poorly that means their spacing was and their execution? And let me say this. Every coach in America has a play that they run end of game. And that's the way you execute it with no crazy ball pressure, no doubling, no switching. Florida played it straight up. And the timing was off, the screens were off, the elevator screen was late, and you had a slide step 3, and you shot it. You wanted to shoot it right away because you don't know that they're going to run you off the line when they blocked 2 of your shots earlier in the game.
Florida had 1 lead prior to the final minute of regulation. It was early in the opening half. Micah Hand-Logden made a short shot for Florida. They were ahead 8-6. They led for 17 seconds as Houston equalized at the 15-20 mark. Their next lead came with Elijah Martin at the charity stripe to put the Gators in front by a single point, 64-63. Florida Gators led the national championship game for just over a minute, and yet at the end, the result will be national championship number 3 in program history in the first in 3 years under Todd Golden. Neither team shot better than 40% from the floor. Neither team shot better than 25% from 3, which is especially painful for the Cougs, who are the nation's best three-point shooting team entering tonight, nearing 40%.
And one thing that I just looked at, because when it's a close game, I look at the free throw game. 17 for 21 for Florida, 9 of 14 for Houston. But I'm not blaming the referees. I'm blaming Houston for not doing a better job of controlling their emotions and controlling what they did. A senior-laden team looked very unorganized down the stretch of a game.
Yes, they certainly did. We'll tie a bow on Florida's national championship run. Up next on SportsGrid's Back to Bracket Central.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
He'll never stop shooting a basketball the rest of his life. All he's going to do is become one of those old, famous ex-players that's in the Hall of Fame, that's a legend, that shows up at games, just like his dad did. His dad shows up at games. His dad was never as good as he is. And his brother is the lost soul. Like, they don't even care about his broke ass. This guy, Steph Curry, can play forever.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Rounding out our Sports Grid Bracket Central coverage of the 2025 Men's NCAA Tournament and, of course, a national championship game tonight in San Antonio. Florida victorious, winning 65-63 in a game we expected to be decided by a razor-thin margin. It absolutely was. The Gators were a -113 moneyline favorite to cut down the nets tonight inside the Alamo Dome, cashing that ticket. Florida was a 1.5-point favorite. They find their way to a cover. A total of 140 and a hook does stay under. The Gators win their third ever national championship. Todd Golden becoming the second Florida head coach to win a national crown, joining Billy Donovan there in Gainesville. And the Gators, who had a 60-1 price before this college basketball campaign got started, became one of the most dangerous teams in the final 2+ months of this season to win a national championship. We talked about it to begin the show. You both had Houston win a national championship. I had Florida. It was a great game. The result that we saw there at the very end, a mad scramble in 20 seconds. For a game to be that close and come down to the final few remaining ticks in regulation, really all you can ask for overall for a national championship matchup.
Yeah, look, man, it actually, to some degree, is nice to see a national championship not go to, like, pure chalk, right? You think about the college football playoff. Ohio State was the scrappy underdog who was preseason favorites and, in-tournament favorites, right? The Eagles were, like, the most recent big long shot we've seen. I'm just talking about, like, Dodgers in the World Series, UConn and those titles that they were winning, Chiefs and their Super Bowls until the Eagles punched them around. So that was great, at least trying to come up with some happy memories while I still can.
I love that for you.
Houston, again, was a co-favorite, right, heading into the season. Houston is not in any level of an underdog having reached this moment. This Florida team really did come out of nowhere, which is remarkable because for the SEC to be as good as it is, you would almost think, if it's going to be so talented, it's going to have to be the absolute best of the best from that conference that make it out. And that was expected to be Auburn, Tennessee, and Alabama. And those three teams were all as good as you could have imagined, if not better. And Florida was just as good as those teams, entered the tournament playing better than any of those teams. It is remarkable that they just won a tournament where in half of the games they didn't look like the better team. That's wild to actually be able to do. They did it, though, and I talked about the historic natures of coaches. If you are now Florida, you have to believe you have now one of the next greats of this sport in Golden, closing it out and actually winning the championship, Coach.
Yeah, and listen, at the end of the day, you just have to have more than the other team. And they found ways to win. And that's a credit to a guy that's 39 years old with the moxie to keep his team composed, to come back time after time, not look great. Double-digit deficits, doesn't matter. They find a way, and that's a credit to what he has built at Florida. From the Houston side, there's going to be a lot of questions on offensive execution, of style of play. And at the end of the day, a team that doesn't shoot well from two and doesn't get to the line enough based off of how many free throw attempts they get based on field goal attempts, 329th in the nation, they got burned because they didn't get to the line and they didn't make twos.
Now we put our eye towards next year.
Indeed.
It's going to be a whole lot of new teams you've never expected. Duke and Houston, first two tries. I'll tell you, I'm very fascinated to see how they price the National Player of the Year market, because Dybonsa is going to get a lot of love. He's not Cooper Flagg, in my opinion. But more than that, way more important, BYU is not Duke. BYU will be nowhere near as good as Duke. So I think that he will be overbooked.
Yeah.
I wonder how, assuming he's sticking around, which it looks like he is, if Braden Smith is back at Purdue, Clough comes in, so you're going to still get a lot of production.
Ren back as well.
He becomes an interesting. Boozer's going to be right there. Darren Peterson. There's a lot of crazy good freshmen coming in. I'm curious what that market looks like, but we're a ways away from getting that.
Duke is the national championship favorite entering next year at a 10-1 price. There is going to be so much more movement in these odds and these numbers because there will be player movement in the transfer portal. In the final 30 seconds of our show here, Florida wins a national championship tonight in San Antonio, 65-63. The third ever in program history, in year number 3 in program history of the Todd Golden era. At the age of 39, he leads the Gators to a national champion. He is the coach, James Young. He is Kevin Walsh. I am Ben Stevens. Hope you enjoyed the big dance. Big N City.